Tomorrow, the 2026 World Cup begins. In less than 24 hours, the Azteca Stadium in Mexico City will host the opening match between Mexico and South Africa. 83,000 people will fill a stadium where both Pelé and Maradona made history, and a tournament that has been surrounded by more arguments, more controversy, and more real institutional chaos than any World Cup in modern history, will finally face the question that has been hanging over for months. Can a football rise above everything happening around it? That question will have to wait until tomorrow, because today, the 9th of June, 2026, the final day before the World Cup begins, the off-field story produced a series of events that together make up the most dramatic and concentrated single day of news in this entire build-up. A World Cup referee was denied entry into the United States and removed from the officiating list completely. His historic moment, being the first Somali official ever at a World Cup, was taken from him before a single match was played. Iran's Football Federation claimed that FIFA took back its entire ticket allocation for all three of its group stage matches, leaving the federation unable to give a single ticket to its own supporters. One of England's most respected football voices posted publicly that this is a World Cup of chaos. And running through all of it is a continuing story of Nigeria, the self-described biggest football nation in Africa, watching a World Cup open without them for the second time in a row, with the voice of their greatest captain still echoing in the ears of everyone responsible. There's also, in a completely different kind of story, the tale of Marcelo Bielsa and Uruguay, because not every thread in today's football picture is about failure and loss. Some of it is simply about football being extraordinary, and Bielsa taking Uruguay to a World Cup is, for anyone who truly loves this game, exactly that. Let's go through all of it. Started with a story that broke this morning, and that had Ian right reaching for his phone. Omar Abdulkader Hartoun is 34 years old. He is Somali. He worked his way up through the levels of African football officiating until he was selected as one of 52 referees for the 2026 World Cup. That selection was, by any measure, a historic one. He would have been the first referee from Somalia ever to officiate at a men's World Cup. Not just a personal achievement, but a genuinely meaningful moment for a country that has faced extraordinary hardship, and that has a football community that truly deserved to feel that pride. Last weekend, Hartoun arrived at Miami International Airport. He carried a diplomatic passport issued by the Somali embassy. He had been through FIFA's approval process. He had been selected and confirmed as part of the officiating roster. At Miami Airport, he was put through what Customs and Border Protection call an additional inspection, which they describe as a routine part of the process when officers need to check information or decide if someone can enter the country. After that inspection, he was told he could not enter due to what they called vetting concerns. He was denied entry. He was put on a flight back home. Somalia is one of the countries subject to a complete travel ban imposed by the United States government. FIFA confirmed what happened in a statement that was, even by the standards of dry institutional language, remarkable for how short and evasive it was. It confirmed that Hartoun would be unable to train and officiate at the 2026 World Cup after being denied entry. It confirmed that FIFA is not involved in the immigration processes of the host country. It confirmed that the host government ultimately decides who receives a visa and who is allowed in, and it confirmed that the decision would not be reversed. Hartoun himself responded with a dignity that made the whole episode even more painful to read. He said he was in a positive mood and focused on the next challenges in his refereeing career. He thanked FIFA and the Continental Governing Body for their support, and he said he promised to keep his refereeing levels high as he looks toward the future. A man who had worked his entire career toward one single moment and had it taken from him in an airport responded with composure and grace. Somalia's Ministry of Youth and Sports said he had a valid visa. The reason for his denial was described only as vetting concerns. No further details were given. Ian Wright found out and did what Ian Wright always does. He spoke to his millions of followers on Instagram in a video that was shared hundreds of thousands of times within hours. He said he had just read about the Somali referee being denied entry. Every few hours, he said, there is another story. Fans denied. Players denied. Officials denied. Journalists denied. Now referees. He said he was laughing, but that it was not funny. And it actually was not funny. He said something had to be said, He talked about the expensive tickets, the most expensive in World Cup history, the expensive accommodation, the transport costs. He asked directly, is this how the hosts behave for the greatest tournament in the world? Is this the spirit of football? He said he felt most sorry for the American fans who are desperate for this, who have been waiting for this, and how embarrassed they must be. He called it a World Cup of chaos. Words of someone trying to cause trouble. They are the words of a man who has spent his whole life in football, who was at Italia 90, when the World Cup last felt like it was moving through something bigger than itself, who will be working as a television pundit covering this tournament, and who looked at everything that had been happening around it and reached a conclusion he felt he had to say out loud. Every few hours, another story. He was right, because within hours of the referee's story breaking, a second story arrived that was even more shocking in what it meant. Iran's Football Federation put out a statement claiming that FIFA had taken back its entire ticket allocation for all 3 of its group stage matches in the United States. Every federation at a World Cup is entitled to receive and hand out 8% of stadium capacity for each of its matches. For Iran, playing at a 70,000-seat stadium in Englewood against New Zealand on the 15th of June, then Belgium in Englewood on the 21st, then Egypt and Seattle on the 26th, that allocation adds up to several thousand tickets per game. Those tickets are normally given to the federation's most dedicated supporters, the fans who follow their team home and away, who attended qualifying matches, who have given years of commitment to their national team. The Federation said in its statement that in an unexpected move, the allocation granted to it had been taken away, that under the current circumstances, it was unable to offer even a single ticket to its national team supporters. Not a reduced number, not a partial withdrawal, not one ticket. The Federation cannot offer its supporters a single seat to watch their team at a World Cup they qualified for. Iran supporters had already been subject to a travel ban since last year. The ticket allocation, when it was distributed, had gone mainly to Iranians living abroad, including those already in the United States who were not affected by the ban and who could have attended the matches. Some of those people had already purchased tickets. What happened to those purchases following the claim revocation was not clear at the time this script was written. FIFA did not immediately respond to the Federation's claims with a public statement confirming or denying that the revocation happened. That silence, given what was being claimed, was itself significant. Iran's players arrived in Tijuana on Sunday. Fans waved to them as they entered their training base. Federation officials have been denied visas to enter the United States. The team crosses the border on match days and returns to Mexico each night. And now the Federation claims the tickets that would have gone to their supporters have been taken back. A team at their 7th World Cup, unable to offer supporters tickets to their own matches, sleeping in one country and playing in another, with officials unable to enter the venue where their team competes. Think about what the full picture of Iran's experience at this World Cup actually looks like. The sports minister said that under no circumstances could they participate. A diplomatic effort by Mexico's president made it possible for them to take part. The Federation boycotted the draw ceremony in Washington. Some officials cannot get visas. The team's base is in Tijuana. And now the Federation claims their entire supporter ticket allocation has been taken back. That is not a story about one decision or one policy. That is a story about a qualified World Cup nation navigating conditions that no other team in the history of this competition has ever been asked to manage. Now, shift the picture completely, because alongside these stories of institutional failure and individual loss, today also carried a very different kind of football news, the kind that reminds you why you fell in love with the sport in the first place. Marcelo Bielsa is taking Uruguay to the World Cup. El Loco, the most obsessive, most detailed, and most unusual tactical mind the game has produced in the last 3 decades. The man who watched so much football footage that opposing clubs built special rooms just to accommodate his viewing sessions. Who once spent an entire night before a match sleeping in the technical area of an empty stadium, so he could understand exactly what the sightlines look like. Who managed Argentina, Chile, Athletic Bilbao, and Marseille with an intensity that his players described as both terrifying and life-changing. He took over Uruguay's national team and guided them all the way through qualification. Uruguay arrived at this World Cup in Group H alongside Mexico, South Africa, and Czechia. The opening group the one where everything begins. It sets up a fascinating tactical contest between Bielsa's organized, high-intensity pressing football and Javier Aguirre's Mexico, in the country that has taken Aguirre in as one of their own. Bielsa's Uruguay squad carries Darwin Núñez, Federico Valverde, and Rodrigo Benker, players of genuine European-level quality. And they carry the particular spirit that Uruguayan football has always brought to World Cups, the sense that they represent a country too small to have any right to be feared, and too proud to let that stop them. Bielsa is one of the most iconic coaching figures in the history of the sport. And nobody, as one description of the tournament's contenders put it, has any idea what he is going to do next. That unpredictability is itself a joy. In a tournament surrounded by institutional noise, the presence of Marcelo Bielsa at a World Cup is a reminder that this competition also belongs to the genuinely extraordinary, to the managers who approach football as a problem so complex and so beautiful that a lifetime of obsessive study is the only proper response. And then there is Nigeria, not at this World Cup for the second time in a row. The self-described biggest football nation in Africa, watching the tournament open without them, with a generation of talent playing for other nations. Mickey Elise for France, Manuel Akanji for Switzerland, Jamal Musiala for Germany. Players born to Nigerian parents or with Nigerian heritage representing some of the strongest squads in the entire field. Nigeria's own team lost on penalties to the Democratic Republic of Congo in the qualification playoff final in Rabat, a 4-3 shootout loss that ended one of the most disorganized qualification campaigns in Super Eagles history. For different coaches during the cycle, a penalty loss to Ghana in the previous qualification round. And now this. John Obi Mikel did not stay quiet. He never does when Nigerian football fails the people who love it. On his podcast and in public appearances on British sports radio, he said what needed to be said. He called it a failure, a disaster. He chose those words carefully, and he meant every one of them. He said that football is the one thing that holds Nigeria together, the one thing that cuts across religion and tribe and the economic struggles of everyday life. Whether you are Hausa or Yoruba or Igbo, Muslim or Christian, when Nigeria plays, everyone watches, everyone supports, everyone feels joy together. And for the second time in a row, that joy had been taken from the people by an administration he described as failing at every level. He said the entire board of the Nigeria Football Federation should resign, not as a crowd-pleasing statement, but as a considered position from someone who played at 2 World Cups, who understands what the preparation and management of a national team actually requires, and who watched his country fail to qualify despite having one of Africa's deepest pools of talent. He said that even winning the Africa Cup of Nations would not remove the pain of missing a World Cup. He said Nigeria belongs on the biggest stage and that nothing else comes close. What connects all 4 of these stories, Hartoon's denial at Miami Airport, Iran's revoked ticket allocation, Bielsa's Uruguay and Nigeria's absence, is that they all, in different ways, reveal something essential about what the World Cup is supposed to be and what it has actually become. The tournament designed to represent football's universality has opened its doors to 48 nations while at the same time closing them to a Somali referee traveling on a diplomatic passport. It has taken back a qualified nation supporter ticket allocation days before their first match. It has produced a coaching story in Bielsa that is pure football joy, completely untouched by institutional noise. And it has left the most populous football nation on an entire continent watching from home, with their captain asking the same question that Nigeria supporters are asking. How did this happen again? Ian Wright's phrase, a World Cup of chaos, will follow this tournament. It is not an unfair description of the 9th of June alone. It captures something about the entire experience of following this competition's build-up over the past several months. But chaos is not the whole story, because tomorrow the Azteca opens. Because Bielsa sits in a technical area somewhere in North America, probably having not slept, probably reviewing footage of South Africa that nobody else thought to watch. Because the players of 48 nations, including Iran's players in Tijuana, who have managed more adversity in their preparation than any squad in World Cup history, are ready. The football is ready. And here's the thing about football that this tournament, for all its institutional failures, cannot change. When it starts, it starts. The moments arrive regardless. They are indifferent to visa bans and revoked ticket allocations And referees turn away at airports. They happen because players of genuine quality, under maximum pressure, on the biggest stage in the world, produce things that nobody planned and nobody could have scripted. That is what begins tomorrow. And that is what will still be true on the 19th of July. If you found value in today's breakdown, hit subscribe so you don't miss a single update as the tournament unfolds.